do I even have anxiety? Because I had been told and diagnosed and all these things forever that I had anxiety. And now I'm like, did I even have this, or were my hormones just incredibly imbalanced? So I literally could barely eat anything, and I remember I dropped like 10 pounds in maybe 2 weeks because there was just so much that I could not eat. I was paying like $200 in total for all of the things that she prescribed. And that was another reason I kind of wanted to stop going, was because I felt very uncomfortable about the tea situation. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan, and I'm doing a video on how I got pregnant with PCOS. So PCOS stands for Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, and it is when you have cysts on your ovaries, usually caused by irregular hormones, being mostly high levels of androgen. I got diagnosed back in 2018. I was having super high levels of anxiety that had been going on for quite a long time, and I felt like I just couldn't get on top of it. I didn't have any control over my emotions. I was having severe panic attacks almost on a daily basis, and I really couldn't figure out how to manage my anxiety. I tried medicine, I tried therapy, I tried everything under the sun. And finally, my roommate at the time had said, have you ever gotten a hormone test done? And I never heard of that, didn't know what that was. She said that her mom's friend had had high levels of anxiety and it ended up being a hormone imbalance. So I booked an appointment with a gynecologist. In order to get diagnosed with PCOS, you need to have 2 of the 3 of irregular periods, high levels of androgens, which androgens are the male hormones such as testosterone, and cysts on your ovaries. And so in order to see if you have high levels of androgens, they take a blood test, and in order to see if you have cysts, they take an ultrasound, a vaginal ultrasound. I got a blood test and I got a vaginal ultrasound, and both came back as being high, very high levels of free testosterone, specifically low levels of progesterone, which are another symptom associated with PCOS, and lots of cysts on my ovaries. And I also had irregular periods. I would go several months without getting my period, and I was an athlete growing up, and so I was always told that I didn't have my period often because I was an athlete, I ran a lot, and so I thought that was the norm. Now that I know my hormones are very out of whack, I think that that was probably more likely the cause, or maybe being an athlete is what led to irregular hormones later on in life. So once I got diagnosed, I was going to kind of a holistic doctor. So she believed in both medicine, but also holistic causes. And I was so desperate to heal it and fix it that I would try anything. So she prescribed me probably 6 different vitamins. One of them was an actual medication. It was spironolactone. And because spironolactone has high levels of potassium, I wasn't allowed to eat anything with potassium. So avocados, bananas, anything like that, while I was on this medication. And then everything else were more of like vitamins or natural remedies. For example, I ordered progesterone cream that I would rub on different parts of my body right before my period. She also highly recommended that I go and see an acupuncturist. And so I went to one of those for maybe 6 weeks or so. I actually really enjoyed it because I felt like it was really relaxing, but I ended up having some issues with my insurance, so I stopped going. I don't think it actually did anything as far as healing the PCOS, but I did find it very relaxing actually. And while I was there, they also made me this like custom specialized tea that literally cost $100 that they wanted me to take every single week, that was specialized to all of my symptoms. And so the first time I just felt like pressured into buying it, and so I got it. And then and they did tell me the price, and then I got to the like checkout and they're like $100, and I was like, and then every week I would go and she'd be like, you're supposed to be taking this every single week. In order for it to work, you need to take more. And I'm like, oh, I'm still drinking. And she's like, you need to have it 3 times a day and all these things. And that was another reason I kind of wanted to stop going, was because I felt very uncomfortable about the tea situation. But I could not afford that. And that was something too about all of the medication I had put on. None of it was a regular prescription other than spironolactone, because I was on insurance, so I would have had lots of coverage for that. It was all like the progesterone cream was $75, I remember, and I was paying like $200 in total for all of the things that she prescribed me. And I don't remember what the other ones were. I want to say like vitamin D was one, and oh, I think Vitex was one. Yeah, Vitex was also another medication that she put me on. It was just all these things, and they were basically symptom treating. So each one did a different symptom treatment. She also told me that I needed to remove dairy and gluten and sugar from my diet. So at the time, I was already a vegetarian. Then when I removed the dairy, they basically made me a vegan minus eggs, then gluten-free, so a gluten-free vegan, plus no sugar and no potassium because of the spironolactone. So I literally could barely eat anything, and I remember I dropped like 10 pounds in maybe 2 weeks because there was just so much that I could not eat, and that was not sustainable. I tried to keep up with it for as long as I could, but I just had way too many restrictions, and over time just got looser and looser until I stopped trying altogether. Now, because my progesterone was so low, she had concerns that it would be hard for me to get pregnant and that I wasn't ovulating. So she had me get ovulation tests in order to test every single day if I was ovulating and on which days in my cycle I was ovulating for 6 months. And that made me extremely sad and anxious because I was 22 at the time, and having kids was something I greatly desired, and hearing that it might be hard for me or I might not be able to made me really sad. I felt like I was mourning the loss of a child I didn't even have yet. And so I did this for 6 months, and she said that I was ovulating, but much later in my cycle than I should be. And so that could make it challenging for me to have kids, but I should be able to have kids, which I was able to have my daughter last year. As I said, this is how I got pregnant with PCOS. So good news on that. But at the time, I was really scared and nervous about that. I went on with this treatment for about a year, and then eventually I ended up getting off of all the medication and just getting on the birth control pill because, like I said, it was super expensive. I was paying maybe $200 a month on all these different medicines that she recommended, and it did help. Like, my anxiety reduced greatly. I remember thinking, like, do I even have anxiety? Because I had been told and diagnosed and all these things forever that I had anxiety. And now I'm like, did I even have this, or were my hormones just incredibly imbalanced? So that was a great plus, is I did have my anxiety go down way much, but it just was too expensive. So I got on the pill that was free with my insurance, and it was just one small pill that I had to take. And then I also had my period regular every single month. So I was really happy with that. So at this time, I was on the birth control pill, and I was doing as much research as possible, trying to figure out how can I naturally heal my PCOS. And the one main thing that I spent most of my time focusing on was nutrition. Now, I didn't eat badly, and I also wasn't overweight. That was something that tends to be associated with PCOS. My weight has always been in the average BMI. I've never experienced being overweight, and I always have been pretty cautious with my diet. And so it wasn't that I was eating bad and needed to eat healthier, but I just needed to eat the right things. And I feel like, first, something I've done that definitely has affected my hormones is I would try lots of different diets. As I mentioned, I was vegetarian for almost a decade. I only started eating meat again when I got pregnant, just to make sure that I was getting all the nutrients I needed for my baby. But I was vegetarian, I was vegan, I had very minimal dairy, and I still kind of have minimal dairy just because I'm very lactose intolerant and can't digest most dairies. I also did intermittent fasting and wouldn't even eat until noon, or just would have coffee for many hours before having food, or I would barely eat all day and then eat like way too much at night. Like, my eating was very inconsistent in what I was eating. And when I did focus on trying to have weight management or weight loss, I focused more on calorie intake and macros, so like protein, fats, fiber, and carbs. But what I learned through my hormone research is it's actually all about the vitamins and minerals, and I started following what I call the hormone diet. And one thing that I started eating every single day, it was a recipe I found on Instagram that was called the Hormone Bowl. And so I would always have the Hormone Bowl, and I'm laughing because I remember whatever I was making, I would make for my husband, and I was telling him all about this. And I was like, yeah, this lowers your testosterone and this raises progesterone. And he's like, is that gonna lower my testosterone? And I was like, I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. It's like, okay, I'm gonna eat it anyway. Everything in this bowl was specialized to helping PCOS. And so it was greens, beets, chickpeas, cheese, cranberries, and avocado. Oh, and walnuts. That was everything in this bowl. Now the chickpeas were really for stabilizing your blood sugar levels because of the high protein and high fiber. Something with PCOS is you're insulin resistant and your blood sugar can get out of whack. It's very similar to a diabetic where you're not processing things the way that you should. So chickpeas are really great for stabilizing your blood sugar level. Beets are actually so good for reducing your cysts on your ovaries, and when you have your cysts dealt with, it will improve all of your hormone balance and all of your symptoms that you're experiencing. So beets are a huge one. The mixed greens also stabilize blood sugar levels, but they're also reduce inflammation and help slow down your digestion. Avocado also stabilizes blood sugar level, but also reduces mood swings and pain and bloating associated with PCOS. And then walnuts improve insulin resistance and also reduces glucose levels. Another thing I had maybe once a week was a anti-inflammatory smoothie that contained ginger, spinach, mixed berries, and protein powder, and celery. The celery reduces insulin sensitivity and balances the blood sugar levels. As you can see, those are huge themes for treating PCOS naturally. Protein in general also balances blood sugar levels and reduces insulin sensitivity, but also, which for me with my high levels of free testosterone, it actually reduces that testosterone level. Spinach helps with insulin sensitivity and also is high in vitamin B, which many people with PCOS are deficient in. And then mixed berries also helps with insulin resistance, blood sugar levels, and your gut health. Kale, broccoli, cauliflower, and zucchini are also really great hormone balancing foods to have in your diet. Omega-3s, vitamin D, walnuts, flax seeds, spearmint, and peppermint are all specific foods or food categories that help reduce elevated testosterone. So I became a pescatarian in 2022, I think in January of 2022, after having a blood test at my doctor, and my doctor highly recommending it for my health. And this was also the year I started working on balancing my hormones. And so fish are a huge part of my diet. I probably have it 1 to 2 times a week. And salmon and other fish are really good sources for omega-3s. So that was something that I regularly had in my diet. Walnuts, as I mentioned, I put in my hormone bowl, so I was eating those every single day. Flax seeds, I put on everything. If I wasn't having my anti-inflammatory smoothie, I was usually having toast or yogurt in which I would put flax seeds on both of those things, and I still put it on everything. And then I bought spearmint and peppermint tea. And so that was kind of how I got that into my diet. And then for vitamin D, I am blessed to have lived in California and now Florida, very sunshiny states. And so I am always out for walks and trying to get 10,000 steps. Not as much now that I have a baby, but trying to get outside and get that vitamin D. Magnesium, B6, selenium, vitamin C, and omega-3s are all nutrients that also help with raising progesterone. So for me, since my testosterone was really high and my progesterone were really low, those were the 2 main things that I was focused on in my diet. I will put on the screen all good sources of all of those nutrients. Some other things that I did around this time besides just diet was watch my caffeine level. So I worked in the entertainment industry, and it was very easy to work very long days, 12 plus hours, and end up drinking 2, 3, 4 coffees a day. I reduced that to at first 1 coffee, but then I was drinking only half calf by the time I got pregnant, or going every other day. I really had to get rid of my caffeine addiction. I would get the worst coffee headache if I did not have coffee right away. And so I was finally able, after fasting that for a while, get rid of my caffeine addiction and then just bring it back in very low amounts. So either I'd have an actual coffee but then not have it the next couple of days, or just do half caffeinated, and that worked really well for me. I also did some really intense workouts. As I mentioned, I was an athlete growing up and I love exercising, and so running was something I would do all of the time, or just working out to a high level, and that's not always the best for your body. And so I still run on occasion. I just will literally crave a good run, especially when the weather outside is crisp and like the perfect running weather. But I started doing walking. I never really walked until the pandemic in 2020, and that was just such a more easy way of doing cardio on my body, of still getting all the same mental effects and impacts that I would get from running, but in a much more gentle way on my body. And I think that changing how I worked out really helped. I also started prioritizing sleep. I have never been a good sleeper, but I really started emphasizing trying to get 8 hours or more at night. I had also drank a lot of alcohol around the time that my anxiety and hormones were at its worst, and have basically cut out alcohol altogether. It's not something that I really partake in anymore, and so I think that that really helped. And then just managing stress and anxiety in life in general, which for me as a Christian can only be done through Christ, but that was something I had to do as well. So I made all of these lifestyle and diet changes about 6 months before getting off the pill. I decided to get off the pill because I just felt very convicted about it. It was something that I had started seeing all over about how it impacted fertility, was bad on your body, was bad for your health, was bad for your hormones, all these things, and I just didn't want to be on it anymore. And so I got off the pill cold turkey, continued to do these lifestyle and diet, I guess not changes at this point, it's been 6+ months of me doing this, but just continuing that lifestyle. The first month I got my period the exact day I was supposed to, and I was like, oh my gosh, I cured them. I'm so excited. I was tracking with natural cycles on, or not natural cycles, but something similar to that. I had whatever the free version was. So I was taking my temperature, my basal temperature and things like that, trying to see when I was ovulating or different things, but I was on nothing. Month 2, it was 2 weeks late, and I was so upset. I was like, my body's just ruined. There's nothing I can do to fix it. And I say that laughing, but honestly at the time I was crying. I was really upset because I was now married, and we had wanted to start trying for kids after being married for about a year, and I was a few months away from that, and I just felt like that was going to be so hard given I can't even have a regular period. The 3rd month, I didn't get my period again, and I was now a couple of weeks late, and was like, wow. I literally called my mom the night before I took a pregnancy test and was like, I just don't think I'm ever gonna be able to get pregnant. Like, my period is so late, my body is so messed up, and I'm so mad at myself for doing all of these things to mess up my body. And I called her on that walk. On my way home from that walk, I started feeling so sick and lightheaded. And I remember being like, you know what? I'll just take a pregnancy test when I get home, because we were about to go out to dinner with my mother-in-law. And I was throwing up, and I was like, whatever, I'm sure I'm not pregnant. The month before, when my period was super late, I had taken I think 2 pregnancy tests, and they were both negative. So I was like, what's the point? It's just messed up. And I came back. I took the pregnancy test, it immediately showed positive, and I just remember being in complete shock. Like, I have never been this shocked. Hey.
Hi.
I don't know if it's real or how accurate it is, but I didn't feel very good today. My period was 10 days late, and it says I'm pregnant, and I don't know if it's real.
I think it's real.
I don't know. I'm gonna drink a lot and take another one to see, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to document in case it's real, because, well. And I remember I was still sitting on the toilet from peeing when I saw this, and immediately called my husband and was like, Andrew. And he came in and he was like, are you pregnant? And I was like, it says I'm pregnant. Like, we just both were like so in shock. I had been off the pill for 3 months. He knew about all the hormone struggles I had gone through and all the things I was doing trying to correct my body. And we weren't actively trying. I was just trying to fix my body until it had been a year. And then we would talk about trying. I was taking like using that app trying to track my ovulation, I didn't know that you can ovulate like right after your period. I literally, it was like day 1 or 2 after my period that I got pregnant. And when I used to track my ovulation, it was way later, like day 19, 20, 21 of my cycle that I was ovulating. So I messed up on that, but I was genuinely in disbelief. I was like, this isn't possible. And I remember my husband wanted to tell everybody. We were actually going out of town 2 days later for his brother's wedding. And he was like, I'm gonna be with my whole family. I want to tell everyone. And I was like, no, you can't tell anyone because I'm not actually pregnant. Like, you're gonna tell everyone, get them all excited, just for me to be like, sorry guys, I was wrong. I'm not actually pregnant, because I did not believe it. And I was like, we're gonna go to the doctor for our confirmation appointment. They're gonna be like, not sure what to tell you here, but there's no baby in you, like you're not pregnant. I took, I think, 4 pregnancy tests, and I was like, they're all broken. My sister had given them to me, and I was like, I don't know, maybe she did something to break them. Maybe they're too old, like I don't think they work. And when that confirmation came back that I was pregnant, I think that's when I first started processing it, because it was 2 weeks before that I genuinely thought like it was broken. I did not think it was true. So that is how I cured my PCOS, through my diet and lifestyle changes. I took no medicine or anything my entire pregnancy. I'm now almost 9 months postpartum. I still don't take anything for it, and I'm just very aware of my nutrients and exercise and all those things, caffeine that I mentioned, and I don't have any symptoms of PCOS. I hope this video was helpful. If you have PCOS or think you might have it or know someone that has it, you're trying to get pregnant or you want to get pregnant in the future, I hope this video provided some helpful information of some lifestyle changes that you could try doing. If you guys have also done anything that I didn't mention that helped you, definitely leave it in the comments so we can help each other out. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!